And then Parker, I actually called him the first day, and I called him at 5 a.m. because my schedule, I was always up at 4 or 5, And hey man, I'm ready to practice today. Are you ready? And he goes, Joe, it's 5:30. I go, yeah, exactly. I got to work at 7, so we got to get going, And just lift your toes, So
from your perspective, when you, Joe, are on the line,
absolutely,
5 to 10 minutes before that gun goes off, I know what's in my head. I've done it.
Right.
What's in your head?
Yeah, I have to have my good lucky socks. My good luck socks. So I had a.
Fall of 2013. That was my first year there. Yeah, that was when we had Jason Rose.
That's my man,
yeah. He actually texted me like
all the time, man.
He texted me about a month or two ago, and I lost my phone at the time, and I had missed his number and his name and contact info. And if you ask Ryan, I'm the worst at getting back to people.
100%.
It's been
you're better than me. So.
Yeah. I got his text.
I think I just reviewed like the whole record book. You're still in there, right?
I should be.
Yeah, I think you're in there for, man.
Oh my
I'm not trying to boast your head, but
pumping his tires.
What was it, man? It wasn't a 2 mile, was it?
No, not the 2 mile. I had the mile in indoor for a year or so, and then that was broken. And then I have the 1,000. There's a 4x8 record and then a DMR record that's still in there.
Yeah, because I was going through too. Once you started talking about stuff, it was like last night at work. It gets a little boring, So pulled it up on the computer. Let me see. Do I still have anything standing here? You know what I mean? So,
are you still in there? Is he still in there?
Yeah, I'm still in there for 4 events. Yeah,
4 events. Not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
Yeah.
How pissed are you that you had to basically train in a hallway and these guys have
you
that
have
beautiful
no
facility
in the hallway?
I can't imagine.
Yeah. If you're not rolling, I'll tell you right now.
No.
Don't worry about it.
No, it's okay. Yeah, so that's So actually, I just started over at UC. I just got hired on as a sprints and hurdles coach there. So literally like 2 days ago. Yeah.
Perfect.
So
and he's got the
swag already.
There you go.
And
Nice.
so it was exciting. So I was at another local college, and I enjoyed it at the college level. And thing was with the work schedule, it was hard for me to get to those practices because they were set for like late at night. They were like 5 to 7. They were set for like 5 to 7 p.m. And so I was reaching out to a couple guys I know at UC. I'm like, listen, if I can help at any time, let me know. I'm like, I want to stay in the game. Because obviously COVID's taken away from a lot of this. High school, you can't really coach much,
No.
And college was just shut down. So I finally reached out and I was like, let me just come up and help you guys. So I had to go through the process and, take the tests. And they actually did all the background and everything. So I got in there and I'm starting to help out. And then, like the other day, they're like, hey, man, you want to just make it official and, just call you a part-time sprints and hurdles coach? I'm like, that'd be amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. So I just
Congrats.
started up there. So,
Congrats.
having the dome now and seeing how I can coach the culture of hurdles and sprints from a hallway to where I was, where Parker and I would have to, and Rose, I'd be like, hey man, can you just stop the people from coming through my track? Essentially, because I had the hallway and where the blocks were
for their own safety.
Where the blocks were, it was right by the main entrance to the weight room. So I'm getting in there, and sometimes it's got to be quiet. You got to hear the set, and it's trying to get in your head a little bit, and it was just hard. So they always told me I was the fastest hurdler through 3 hurdles, but there was 5, right? So, that was the problem I was coming to, because obviously I trained 3, and then we had the downhill. There was the training room in the back. You're at the dead end there.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And then, it's the second portion of having, the ceiling. I feel like you're going to hit it. The walls are closing in on you.
They do, don't they?
It's just like,
like a racquetball courts. And then when you walk back, you're kind of like, this is bigger than I thought it was.
And that's exactly it, yeah. But getting back to the question, just having that facility and seeing the amount of work that you can do, and not just for track and field. I was there the other day, and I think they had, field hockey was out there on the field, and they weren't even in the way whatsoever. I mean, it's just to have that here essentially, and it's a facility like no other. I mean, other colleges have an indoor track, but most of them don't have that track connected to a field. You have to go to another building and
then a weight room.
Or a weight room for just the athletes.
Right.
Yeah. And when I was there, so I would run a hallway, then I would go into the community weight room. And, if the football players were in there, nothing against football players, but, I had no room.
It's 100 guys.
Yeah, I had no room. And it's, and me, so when I went to college also, I also had a full-time job. I owned a house, and I was coaching high school track too, while still trying to do my own thing. So I had limited time, limited time.
Yeah.
But what a facility.
It's awesome.
And you know what they're doing up there.
And there's an outdoor track that's coming in the fall, so that's a huge.
Yeah, we were talking about that too. They're getting that ready. The plans are drawn up. It's a beautiful facility. It's going to be right behind the baseball fields, apparently. That'll hopefully we can draw in some competition too. You know, now maybe we can host the Empire 8s there for outdoors instead of always going. You know, or something of that nature. It's exciting.
Where did you go to high school?
So I went to Rome Free Academy.
You went to that's right. You went to
So who was your coach?
So I had Coach Mays.
Yeah, me
legendary
too.
man.
Yeah,
legendary. And the thing was, coaching high school indoor at Oriskany, I saw him every meet, and it's like some of the things that I was teaching my kids stem from what I learned in high school as well, obviously amongst other things. So yeah, I'm an RFA boy. I graduated in 04.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Do you know Darrell?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Great friends with him.
So we have the pleasure of knowing him as well in a different facet here. But today he was in. What did he pull?
I think every 45 plate that we had in the facility was out there.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
I thought it was going to go through the floor. I really did. And he's such a nice guy.
Oh, he is.
He's a sweetheart. He really is.
Did you run with him back at RFA?
I ran with him RFA. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Him and that whole 4x1 team. I was a senior. They were, a junior class. They were a year behind, but we became really good friends. Joe Reed. Who was the other gentleman? Played football. Went to Wagner. I'm drawing a blank right now. Oh man,
before my time.
Yeah, no, good friends, great friends, and then obviously Joe went on to Oneonta, coached.
Right, and Reed, he had a younger brother that ran. He was younger than me.
Yes,
but he was a sprinter, and he actually went to UC. He did football. He decided, I think, that football was to stay with football. But he was a fast kid too.
Oh yeah.
Who was that?
Josh
Reed, yeah. Josh Reed. That was a receiver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, great time there. And, those guys on the 4x1, man, they won states.
I know.
Seth Gordon, he was another one of the guys on the team.
Yeah.
They were just fast. And Coach Mays just had it. He had that connection to kids, as you would know. He smart, and he's funny. He kept you in the moment.
Real intuitive. And he just was a great coach.
Yeah.
I mean, there are cues that I take from that. And he went over something with me that no one has ever gone over with me in my entire time. And I've been through 3-4 coaches, which is, how do you start a race?
Yeah.
How do you get off the start line?
Yeah.
Coach Mays is the only one who looked at me and said, I got to teach you how to start. and I figured this is just his sprinting background. But those little fundamentals are the things that you really don't ever. I mean, what am I going to do? Look that up? You know what I mean?
There's books on racing technique and how to run the 8, how to start the 8. Where to get on the line if you can. Right. But
and he did it, and it's been proven. And I focus on every meet up until my senior year, even on my senior year of college, even on the last race. Having been through all this and learned all this, I mean, at the start line, I was like toes in the front line. I'm like, what did Coach May say?
Yeah.
And then how did Catterson, tell me to race it? So then all the voices of all the people, conglomerate into your own mind when you're trying to do this, and so that's really cool, a testament to him. I'm sure his athletes like Joe coaching has taken what he's done and implemented it too.
Oh yeah. No, he's one of the guys that the sport will be sad when he's done at the high school level. He leaves a mark on a lot of kids. So.
So talk to us about, you were talking about how you were in college doing your own thing while coaching. You had your own house.
Right.
Tell me about how did this all get started? And
so after high school, I joined the military first. I graduated and I was like, let's go to college. Everyone's doing it. So I went and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I was going just for your general stuff. And I was like, at that point, it's like, all right, so how can I, make money to set myself up for the future? So I decided to go join the military. My brother went. I went about 6 months after him. So I did that. I did an active duty stint, and I came home. And
what branch?
I was with the Navy Seabees. Yeah.
Nice.
So I was like a heavy equipment operator.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do a lot of like the combat engineering, just like the Army combat engineers do and stuff like that. So
where were you at? What'd you get to see?
So I was in Port Hueneme, California.
Okay.
And,
not a bad place.
No.
Yeah.
It was in Ventura County. It was not technically Southern California. We're about 2 hours north of San Diego.
It's still blue skies 300 days out of the year.
Yeah. And the winter was a couple rainstorms. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
And then so after that, I did 2 years of active time. Then I came home in the reserves.
Nice.
And then so in 2009 and 10, we went to a little bit of Kuwait and then Afghanistan. So I did my time over there. It was a little over a year was the whole deployment with boots on ground.
Yeah.
And then, let me backtrack before that. Sorry about that. I went to NBCC first.
Okay.
Then once I got out of like my 2 years, came back in 7 and 8. I went to NBCC.
Okay.
And I graduated and I raced there. And I just picked it back up kind of. I just was like, I ran track in high school. I loved it. Let's go back into it.
Mm-hmm.
Felt a little weird because obviously I was 21 at the time. Kids were 18.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was like, man, this is kind of different.
Yeah.
But I put that aside. Coach Parker, MV was my coach. Great guy. He gave me just the basics and told me to work with it, and he just kind of let me do my thing and on how I wanted to approach it. I had some success there. I won 2 junior college national championships in the 110 hurdles. Mm-hmm. I think I finished maybe 5th or 6th at the indoor junior college, but at that level, junior college is Division I only for the nationals at indoor.
Okay.
So I think I was the only D3 junior college athlete to go. So these were like the kids who were D1 talent, but didn't have the grades yet,
right?
Or they didn't have the structure to get into that D1 school. Mm-hmm. So most of those kids went to the Texases, the Houstons, Texas Tech.
Big sprinting programs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Long time,
so then once I graduated there, I enrolled right away for the first year with Coach Rose. Okay. He was recruiting me pretty good, and we became good friends. Me being an older athlete, I was 22 when I went. We connected.
Yeah.
And so I was ready. I enrolled. I started my first 3 or 4 weeks of classes, and then we got orders to hit for Afghanistan and all that, because that was like that big push in 2009.
Oh, okay.
Hundreds of thousands of troops. Yeah. So I literally, the one day I'm like, this is great.
This is great. Back in college, it's nice, yeah.
And then, I get the orders to go, and I give him my coach, and he goes, what does this mean? I go, I'm gone for about probably a year and a half now, And so it took him by, surprise.
Yeah.
And so I went over there, did my thing, tried to stay in as best shape I could.
Yeah.
With the little facilities we had and all that stuff. So, but I made a promise. I came home and I was in California again, and there's all these schools, and I'm like, man, let me apply. So I applied to a couple of them, D2, D3 schools, and it's like, we'd love to have you. This is what you get for, being a vet coming back. And I'm like, wow, I can stay out in Cali now and race, and this is going to be a good time. And then, but in the back of my mind, Rose is always reaching out, checking on me. He sent me stuff overseas.
Really?
Yeah, just nice. An all-around good guy like we talked about.
Oh, he's the man.
Yeah, and so, I was like, I'm going home. I already committed to him. I'm going to come home and run. So I came home, and it's like one of those things. I needed a place to live. I'm like, 23 now, I might as well buy a house. So now it was time, you know what I mean? And now it was time. So it's one of the things. I came home, I bought the house, and I was like, well, I got to pay for the house, so I got a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I was working as a correctional officer, and enrolled at UC, so I did a lot of night class work. Mm-hmm. I did like the 3-hour nights, one day a week, whatever, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Mm-hmm. And then Parker, I actually called him the first day, and this is a story that lives on forever. I called him at 5 a.m. because my schedule, I was always up at 4 or 5, And I'm, hey man, I'm ready to practice today. Are you ready? And he goes, Joe, it's 5:30. I go, yeah, exactly. I got to work at 7, so we got to get going, And it's a story that's so true, because he was like, wow, this is a different athlete that I'm going to be dealing with.
Yeah.
Because me being older, I didn't live on campus. I didn't have that time.
Right.
So he's like, cool. So we will meet at 5:30 every day, and we will practice from 5:30 to 6:45 to 7, and then off to work you go.
Were you always regimented like that prior to the military service? Like when you were in high school, when you were an MV prior to going off, were you built that way, or did the military kind of help facilitate some of that behavior?
Yeah, the military changed that behavior very well.
Really?
Yeah, because in high school I was your typical sprinter hurdler. I mean, I got to run 100 meters today. That's kind of long, coach. Can we bring it down? You know what I mean? That's what it was.
Right. Yeah.
Military.
That. Yeah. If you see 200 on there, you just don't get on the bus.
No, you don't. No. So it definitely changed the way, and it also it makes people realize, what you're doing there and what your goals want to be when you come home. Mm-hmm. It's like, wow, let me get back in a track. And I'm like, well, again, it's the age thing. Like now I'm 23, and some of these kids are 18. I'm like, this is kind of weird,
How was that? How was that comparison? Racing again, being a teammate with an 18-year-old and a 23-year-old,
right?
Because you had some real good life experiences compared to these guys. I mean, you were overseas for a year,
right.
Like you were into some things that this is their first time being away from
home. Mom and dad,
mom and dad,
and you could see the difference. But another thing too is I never met any of the athletes until the first track meet. Because I always practiced in the morning.
5:30. Right.
I practiced so early, and then if I didn't practice at 5:30, Parker said, "Hey, it's a little early. Let me catch some sleep. I'll see you after night class." So we'd practice at 7 or 8. So that's when I get it done. So the first track meet, I'll never forget. We went to RIT, and so obviously I'm on the bus, and everyone's like, "Oh, we got a new coach." You know what I mean? So I'm just sitting there. I've got the same stuff on that the coaches do, And so I get there, I'm warming up, and they're like, "Coach, who's this guy warming up?" I'm like, hey guys, I'm Joe, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a coach, I'm an athlete, kind of things. Like, all right, cool, whatever. And so I get on the line, and I think it was prelims, and it was 55 then. And I won the prelims going into finals. They're like, wow, he's he's ran before, kind of thing. And so I get up there again, and
a time or two.
Yeah, and I get up there again, and I win that opening meet, which brought confidence into me. And obviously it was a smaller meet, which is with RIT, but no one had an idea. So then obviously on the way home on the bus, we started talking and getting to know the kids, and you can just see the space where I was like, and I'm gonna go home and go to bed. And they're like, we're gonna go home and get ready to do this. So it's kind of and it was different in the fact that I was, I guess I can say, more prepared, because I knew what I was kind of driven for, what I wanted to get done, what I'd like to accomplish, and I never like to end a season early. I don't want to just make it to conference and say, oh wow, I missed regionals, or oh wow, I missed nationals. So the end goal was always to make it to nationals, and if you didn't make it, it's not a successful season to me.
Right.
But the kids, they were good. They didn't have any animosity against me, or they didn't feel like any he's getting special treatment by 5 a.m. practices, because obviously they're not going to get up at 5 a.m.
Right.
Hard no for those kids.
And after about 4 or 5 weeks, we bonded well. They would ask me questions about even suggestions on what to do if A was going on, how do you fix it with B, like you were saying, maybe some life questions or whatever,
Oh, okay.
Something simple, but yeah, it was I miss it, man. I tell you that, I missed the competing and all that for sure.
So how do you stay competitive?
Right now, I have 2 daughters and a wife, so that's how I stay competitive. My oldest is 4, my youngest is 2.5. So working midnights, I sleep.
I'm right there.
Yeah.
I've got a 3.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, 15 months apart.
Yep, that's about it.
And it's insane.
You're on the run.
One was fantastic. Two's a game changer.
Yeah.
It really is. And they just want mom a lot. They just want mom a lot, which makes me feel bad because I want to be as helpful as possible.
Yeah, you do.
But man, it's tough.
It is.
It's tough.
It is. And with the schedule I work, can I go out and train for 2 hours a day doing what I want? I could, but I'd rather be a family man right now. So I get in what I can to stay healthy and physically fit, and strong enough to be safe at my job, and then other than that, I'm not really training for much. I'll go out and there's a 5K or a half marathon, I'm in shape to run those. Will I set PRs? Not by any means,
5K and a half marathon, that's a big
gap.
It's a big gap.
That's a big gap.
Because
you have to
you really went from 3.1 to 13.
That's a big prepared to race at any time.
All right.
If you're putting in 30 miles a week, you're good to go,
All right. I cannot go between a 5K and a half marathon.
Well, and would I train separately if I was signed up for a half?
Just in the range to strike when you can.
Always trying to be physically fit is key, and just healthy. But other than that,
what are you doing for work now?
I'm a police officer.
Police officer? Where at?
City of Sherrill.
City of Sherrill?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I started my career with the City of Rome.
All right.
And about 4 years into it, I just swapped over just for quality of life reasons and things like that.
Nice. Good.
Yeah, so we moved out of Rome, and we're in Whitesboro now. And
cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So.
I heard you've done an Ironman.
Yeah. Oh, so that's when after college, that's what I got into. Mike, Mike Breich.
I do. We had him on the podcast last.
Yeah, we had him on.
Yeah.
Was he our last person?
Yeah.
He was our last guy.
Yeah. So he's my cousin through marriage, and so I finished, and I'm like, Mike, what am I going to do now? I was like, I'm competitive. I got all this drive. Like, what can I do? He goes, try triathlons. I said, listen, man, I can't swim. I sink. I literally couldn't swim from one side of the pool to the next without stopping. And and he gave me his bike. He said, here, just go on a 5-mile bike ride. He goes, I want you to go as fast as you can and come back. He goes, you're going to be so thrilled. And I did that, and I was hooked, like legit. Over here in New York Mills. I got on this tri-bike, and I was zipping 25, 26 miles an hour. I'm like, this is amazing.
Cruising.
Right. And so I started training, and I did a couple small ones like Delta and Old Forge, ones he did. And then and then I started getting into the irons. I did about 5 or 6 half irons, and I did Placid the full, and it was awesome, fun. But yeah, you're spending 30 hours a week, 20 hours a week. And because again, it's one of those things where I'm not going to do it just to finish in that 17 hours. I want to do it and try to compete, So that was the biggest thing. And then, once the job kicks in, then you started coaching, and then, getting married, having kids. It just kind of, it goes to the side until I have time.
How did you get over the swimming part? Because that's something that I like. I mean, I would really love to do it, but the swimming, it's got to be the hardest part.
It was. So Mike had a club at New Hartford. So I signed up with him, and I went there. And for 3 months, I literally couldn't go from one to the other side. He goes, just keep doing what you're doing. And I'd use the pull buoy, the kickboards to help me keep afloat. And then literally one day I went back after maybe 3 months. And he goes, all right, you're not going to do anything this time. You're just going to swim. I'm like, all right, today should be the day to try it. And I just did it. And I think I did like 500 meters without stopping. And after that, your body just kind of adjusts. You know, it was, it took a while and it was very annoying because I was like swimming from one end to the other and stopping, then going again, then stopping, you know, and then finally it just kicked in. And it's, after that, I just never got faster because I'm not a very good swimmer. Okay. You know, being 200 pounds is not really good in the water. You know what I mean? So, because I swim like this. You know, my butt's down here, my head's up here. And, so, I did decent in the swim, but my strong suit was always just the bike. The bike, and even by the end of my career, the running started kicking in, you know. But the bike is what saved me. The bike is what kept me, you know, in the lead in small races and, you know, it kept me above the top half in Ironmans.
Why would you say that was initially your strongest of the three there?
I would have to say from sprinting. You know, just have that quick turnover, the power, the strength from lifting, you know, the lower body, the core, because that's all biking. And then obviously when you go on the run, that's part of it, but you also need to have that endurance, which, you know, I wasn't there yet. I just wasn't there after 2 years of training, you know. And now I could, if I did it again, the roles would be reversed. The run would definitely be my strength because for the past 6 years, I've just been running. You know, that's all I've been doing just to stay in shape, running and lifting and things like that. But yeah, Ironmans and triathlons, if you ever get time, they're a thing to watch and two to participate in. They're
and then I've seen the Lake Placid one year. I lived up at Lake Placid doing Can-Am hockey camp.
Yes,
and that's all they talked about was like how great Ironman weekend was, and I got to experience it. I was like, wow. This is great.
It's insane. Now, amazing. Were you there for the rolling start or were you there for the mass start?
I was there for the mass start.
3,000 people in the water.
In the water. And like we were standing there. It was, I don't know what time it is in the morning, but me and my buddies had growlers from the pub. Oh, yeah. And we're just sitting there pounding that and watching these guys and gals just go. Like,
and it's a sport that's cool because you get to participate with the pros.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to go play football with, you know, the Buccaneers or any, you know.
Yeah.
But in triathlon, the pros will be 3 minutes ahead of you. And honestly, if some of them have bad days, you will catch them.
Yeah.
You know, you remember Dave Muir, the BMX bike rider?
Yeah.
Back in his day?
Yeah.
So he got into triathlons,
really?
You know, before the end of his life. And he raced at Syracuse Ironman. And it was a day in 2015. It was like 99 degrees. Humidity was over the top. And he must not have been used to it. I was literally riding, and before I had a flat tire, and I was like, that's Dave Muir. I'm like, I just passed Dave. You know, talking to myself, like, he's a pro, man. Like, that's good stuff. And then, you know, getting cocky, of course, you got 2 flat tires, and 15 minutes later, you know, set you back a little bit. But so that's kind of what drove me too. Is you're racing with the pros, and you get to watch them, and they're not like a different level. They'll stop and they watch all the finishers. They'll sign whatever you want. They'll shake your hands. Like in the athlete lounge where there's food, they'll sit down and just like eat pizza with you. You know, it's a good time.
Is that a discrepancy between distance guys and like fast, like sprinting guys?
What's that?
Like the camaraderie, like the fact that they'll stop, they'll watch everyone finish.
100%.
Because I've been on the line in like cross country. I ran cross country. I was a mid distance guy. I did 400 with Coach Mays and then more 8 in mile and 15 in college. But when I get on the line for the mid distance races, it was a little bit more like, get the hell out of my way.
Oh, yeah.
And that I'm not saying it would have been, I'm sure, on the other end of the spectrum, 55, 60, 100 would have been even more, you know, that way.
Right.
Because then on the 8K and cross country, you're standing next to these guys, and they're all, like, nervous and, like, shaking. They're like, this is going to suck. And you're like, oh, I guess. I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. Yeah. But it's much more, and then you finish, and you're like, oh, my God, great job. You know, it's a different dynamic. It feels like a totally different sport compared to track at times because of that dynamic on the start line.
Oh yeah,
you know, or even at the finish line and so you would agree with that.
Completely agree. So, and even from my own experience, and I was one of those guys. I would be that again, going in at 23, and people knew like there's this old guy running, and you know he's putting down some okay times or whatever, and I'm like, whatever. I never fell into it, and so once we got to the bigger races, you know, ECACs back then was the biggest meet. And we didn't have regionals, and then obviously nationals, and guys are always like, you know, talking this and that, and they're always asking, what's your best time? And I was that guy that's like, you'll find out after the race. You know, you'll know what my best time is after the race. And it wasn't, and it was never me trying to be, you know, cocky or anything like that. It was just one of those things where like, you don't need to know my performance until you see it, or you don't need to know it just because I'm racing you right now. Like I don't want you to get into my head, and I don't want to get into your head. It's just
that's the way it should be.
And the thing is
But you saying, oh, you'll see when I'm done. That's a little getting into that.
It might be.
I like
and
that.
And the thing is, though, with sprinters, though, after we finish, you know, I would be the one. I would just literally, I wouldn't even look at the clock. I would jog right. I would just continue running, turn around, and go right back to my coach. And you know, some was saying that's kind of an intimidation method, like, oh, he's not tired yet. I said, no, I don't want to sit and talk. I want to go see what what I did wrong before my coach forgets it. So I'd go find Parker and Rose, but hey man, listen, I didn't feel fast, or I didn't feel like my technique was on. What did you see? And so I just always ran right back. I never stopped, and I never congratulated anyone. I never stayed. The only time we ever did that as a sprint group was the hurdlers at nationals. The 4 seasons I was there, it was the same 20 guys that usually made it. You'd have 1 or 2 new guys making it to the national level, but those guys, we would exchange phone numbers afterwards, and then we would talk. And so every season, we'd be like, hey man, did you get in? Like, yeah, we're in. I'll see you in a couple days. And so those guys we hung out with, and the camaraderie was there. But
I wondered if you were going to be closer with those guys at that level.
Because
I think physically,
a lot.
They'd look more like you.
Yes.
They'd be more competitive like you. That mindset would be more similar. And so for you, that would have been something to share with that level of athlete. And that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you that I think is going to be pretty cool. So when you get to the start line, say it's 5 to 10 minutes before the gun goes off, what are you thinking about? 5 to 10 minutes before the gun goes off.
And we're talking about any race at all? Or are you talking about like my personal experience, or what I try to teach? What I teach kids?
From your perspective, when you, Joe, are on the line,
absolutely,
5 to 10 minutes before that gun goes off. Yeah. I know what's in my head. I've done it.
Right.
What's in your head?
Yeah, I have to have my good lucky socks. My good luck socks. So you're completely right. I had a pair of blue and orange Puma socks, and if I didn't have them, it's not race time yet.
Okay.
So you double check the socks. So and again, cold weather, right? The gear stays on the whole time. If people are taking their clothes off, they're getting cold. I'm fully suited up until the guy says, get in your blocks. I'm like, you can hold on a second, please. You know what I mean? That one of those things. But, for me, it was thinking about technique. It was thinking about being explosive, being powerful, and being as quick as I can. Because me being a shorter hurdler at 5'11", most hurdlers who make it to that level are 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah.
I had to use what I had to my benefit, and that was my strength and my power and my block start. So that's all that was going through my mind. It was just, replaying the first couple 8 steps into the first hurdle. Then with 2-3 minutes left, I sit down and relax. A lot of guys say, don't sit down, it's not good. I'm giving my legs some time.
That was my follow-up question. A minute before, and then obviously a minute, you're in your blocks, but 2 to 3 minutes, that's your...
Yeah, so fast forward to that, man. I'm in there, and I look over at Parker or Rose, any last-minute suggestions, what do I need to fix? And they would usually say, shut up and just race,
Yeah.
So you're not getting in my own head again. And I would just sit and relax, and I would just, just observe. And then, they'd say, all right, your heat's getting up, I'd get ready. And getting into blocks for me was something that was like it's like a work of art kind of thing. It was just weird. Like, it's my track, it's my lane, it's my block. Like, don't get in my way. I'm gonna race, and it's like I'm so focused at that point.
Okay.
And I try to teach. That's what I try to teach the kids too at the high school level. Like, you got to race every race like maybe it's your last race. If you tear a hamstring, you get injured. Like, if you're not putting forth 100%, as most athletes will every chance they get, why compete? So that's the biggest thing I was thinking of. I'm getting in the blocks, I'm clearing my head, and all I'm thinking is power. And then once it's up to set, it's just there's no noise. The fans could be screaming. Not many fans at D3, but coaches could be yelling. Whatever it is, cars can be honking their horns. You don't hear anything.
Isn't it the craziest moment that you've ever felt? And I can hear it. As you're saying it, I can hear it.
You can
and it's
just
weird, quiet, and it is. And you'll never. And then you watch a video of someone doing it, and it's all like I didn't
like
hear
where was that noise?
Yeah. But for you, it's this just like you're here, and then you're like. All right. Where are we going? And then the gun goes, and then it's go time.
And the gun hits, man, and it's an explosion out of the blocks, man. It's just everything you have, and that was the hardest part of the race. If I set myself up to hurdle one, however my setup was going to be a good or a bad day,
Yeah.
But yeah, the last 5 minutes is nervous, but as soon as they say runners on your mark and you're getting in set position, the nerves are gone. The head's clear, and you're just waiting for the gun. So and everyone has a different routine. Some kids like to keep hurdling and running and stretching until they tell you to get into the blocks. I didn't like that. I kind of like to settle back down for about 2-3 minutes and just kind of like relax and get
we
ready.
had the I would always for mid distance because you're not in a block start.
Sure.
But I still had the same experience with the headspace and feeling that, which is a unique thing. I remember, there'd be kids jumping around, slapping their quads they saw the sprinter do like 5 minutes ago or whatever it was. And I remember, I personally would kind of feel like I'm just gonna stand here. Why would I do that? This is about to be really hard. I don't know why I want to make it any worse.
Let's bruise our legs a little bit.
Yeah, to get hyped up, and then it's all down to the start, but. That was, I agree. I share that in so far as I kind of wanted to relax. I thought there was nothing more that I needed to be done right now.
Yep.
Because if I didn't just warm up, why would I do it now?
Right.
So
yeah.
So carrying that into, you're at the start line. What do you teach your kids for hurdle technique? What did you use yourself? What do you teach?
So I honestly start with the basics, and we go from there. So we'll start with just general walkovers. We won't do anything else until they can get the proper technique of a lead leg, trail leg, arm positioning, body position, tightening the core, lifting up on your calves, on your toes, extending those calves so you can get up into the hurdle. We won't go forward until I can see that technique, because the last thing I want is to put a kid over even the lowest of hurdles of heights, and they're just going to tip their toe over the top and fall. So I start with the basics, and first time hurdler, the first 2 or 3 practices, you won't even hurdle. A lot of kids call it jumps, but the thing I try to teach them is it's just an elongated stride. So I'm essentially taking your step, and I just want to make it a little longer and a little higher by having you jump farther away from the hurdle, if you will. And once we go from there, man, we do one-step techniques, which is taking those walking movements, and I make them a little faster, so you're actually doing the same one, but you're putting a jog in the middle. Sounds funny, sounds hard. I mean, I could show you, but not in jeans. You know what I mean? It's like, and so from there, we'll actually go into a 3-step hurdle drill. We have 5-step hurdle drills. There's drills where I'll take hurdles out of the run, so that way you hurdle once. I force you to get up to top speed, hurdle again. So instead of doing 10 and 110s, you'll do 4. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. All sorts of hurdling techniques I learned from Coach Mays, from Coach Parker, from USTF level 1. That class was significant to me too. And honestly, I learned a lot just from watching other athletes at the national level, watching their warm-up drills. So, it takes an hour and a half to warm up for my 7-second race. While I'm doing that, I'm also watching Rose Hulman. I'm watching Chicago University. I'm watching the other schools warm up. Yeah. Or when we went to D1 races, I'd watch Texas A&M, Syracuse, and I'd watch their hurdle warm-ups. Like, wow, that's an awesome stretch for hurling. Or wow, that's a really, really good hurdle technique drill that I'd like to implement. And I would ask Parker about it, and we'd find it up on YouTube, or you'd find it on some training website, and we would implement it. And so things like that, once I have an advanced hurdler at the high school level, now college, I'll slowly start to turn that over into them if it fits.
I see.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So if there are hurdle kids watching now, seeing you having done this, give me a couple, like on your hand, a couple things that you would really like from when the gun goes off to the first 3 hurdles. What are we focusing on?
Really got to focus on being tall on the first hurdle, because the biggest thing for me is I would sink my hip. So I would try to lift my lead leg up, right? Yep. But I'm going like this down. So you need to be tall, especially if you're 5'11", 5'10". You got to be tall up into the hurdle. Right. And it's all arm technique and keeping your body square. As soon as your arms start to turn, now you're throwing your legs to the side. Now you're sidestepping. You could step out of the lane, disqualifications. Yeah. And keeping your speed and keeping your steps, your rhythm, your gait has to stay the same. So, if you're, for example, let's use 3. If you're using a 3-meter gait, you need to keep that throughout, because if you get closer to the hurdle, say if you go 3, then 3.1, 3.2, because you're getting lazy, you're creeping up on the hurdles, and then hurdle 4, 5, and 6 are going to be a lot harder. So technique, keeping that same rhythm, the same step that you have within the hurdles is really important, but it's also, that all comes from flexibility. If you're not flexible, you can't do either of them.
So the follow-up is the big component is off the track, weight room mobility, strength,
absolutely.
Power, the whole component, but then incorporating the dynamic part of movement. What people call flexibility and mobility. Semantics, but the movement, the intervention you're going to perform is going to look very similar. Yeah. And this is stuff you've picked up over time, which is the key to the coaching there.
The biggest thing that changed my hurdling technique, my hurdling rhythm, my hurling achievements, if you will, is when Parker showed me this new dynamic workout. He brought it from Iowa State. So instead of warming up, doing high knees, butt kicks, those old school, old time things, which are still great, but now we have dynamic warm-ups that have been around for 10 years, and my hip flexors got so loose, and they were warm, my calves, everything. I used to get shin splints like no one's business. I literally couldn't walk after a hurdles race. It was just terrible. I didn't know what I was doing wrong, but I just wasn't flexible. So he brought the dynamic warm-up to me, and obviously with the proper treatment from the UC staff, that wasn't a problem anymore. So that was a big thing for me. Having that new flexibility, the new sense of, I can stretch that if I need to, or if I need to put a cut step here to hurdle 1, I should be able to do that.
Any other injuries you ever have?
It's shin splints one. Then I was training after the Indoor Nationals in 2011. Yeah. we went to train for outdoor, getting ready, and I actually tore my left hamstring.
Okay.
I tore it, and it was a very slight tear, but it required, some stimulation and all that stuff. I was out for 3 weeks. But they did great over there at UC.
Nice.
Within 3 days, I was running again. I mean,
Very good.
They said it was just easy because of a small tear, a lot of muscle in the area.
Yeah.
That the replacement wasn't bad. So I was down to like walking after 3 and running, right, jogging if you. I wasn't sprinting, but and then I raced. I think like a month later, a month after it happened. So I was kind of lucky with that. It was just,
definitely.
You hate going out to your first meet to an Empire 8 Championship meet, but. It is what it is.
Did that change your coaching a little bit, having that?
Yeah.
What have you done? What do you remember anything big that you changed because of that, or any exercises or drills you incorporated?
Yeah, less is more.
Okay.
Less is more. The high school athlete doesn't know when to stop. They're usually overtraining. Mileage is so for distance. I need 70 miles a week. This is my mileage.
They get carried away.
Yeah, you don't need that.
No.
You're 18. You're 17. You know what I mean? It's
right. For
what you're doing. You don't need that. You don't need that build up. So that's me coaching kids. Less is more for me. So same thing with the sprints. We're only doing 2 500s today. We're only doing 2 150s. I'm like, that's all we're doing. You're racing in 3 days. You know what I mean? So you still need your pre-meet day.
Right.
And so me getting injured, and Parker didn't overtrain me by any means. I think I was trying to overtrain myself. I was trying to push myself so hard in practice that, I just overextended and got a little tear in my hamstring. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Coaching mentality. So you talked about your mindset, 5 minutes up to the blocks, in the blocks. So when you had it, because you coach a team, and now you're going to be coaching another team here. The biggest question I have, and we asked this of Breich too, was, do you have a great speech? Do you have this thing when everyone comes together, and in cross country it's the final run out, for the athletes when they get out there and they circle up, and what the coach says there can make or break some of these kids who their head gets in the way of their feet.
Right.
So, and I'm sure that happens on the track too, because with hurdles being a very technique driven race.
Right. Right. Yeah.
What do you say to these kids? What's your pitch? How do you get them to be where they can be? So,
and I've been coaching cross country now for 3 years too at a risk in the end. So that's different than what you would say to the sprint group or long distance group, even on the track. So with cross country, it's more of they do their own warm up. They have it down to a system. But a minute before, 2 minutes before, we get together and I talk and I go, like, listen, you know what you put in for the week. I'm like, you were at practice, you trained hard, so you know what you can do. Now you just have to show me. Prove to me that 1, the training's right, 2, and you can do it. And if they believe in themselves, and I'll always explain, but listen, obviously I give them the pat on the back, you guys train hard, you can do this, win as a team, race as a team speech. And some get it, some don't. It's like, well, he didn't really say much. It's not really like he's, lifting us up, but I want them to know that I'm trying to also teach them that whatever they do is how they're going to perform. So
it's on them.
If they attended 5 practices and they were running hard and I saw that, and they're going to see that result on day 7, you know what I mean? So that's I kind of leave it to the kids for cross country, because it's a team event and people don't think so, and but when it comes to sprints, it's the same kind of thing. The confidence building is what I try to really, really hammer on, especially for hurdles. You have a good hurdle practice, but listen, remember Tuesday? This is what you did. You remember Tuesday, that one run through? I'm like, that's all it takes. If you put that one run through that you had in practice and you put it here today, it'll put you this in the section. It'll put you this on the nationals list. This is the time you need. But I try to have them believing in themselves. I always try to turn it on them. I always tell them, trust the process, trust the program. If you believe in your training, then why can't you believe in the race that's about to happen? And you don't really have to be. Nerves are good. That's people think, I'm too nervous to race. I can't.
You need it.
Yeah, nerves
that's what
are
takes
good.
you to the. I always thought that's what was the difference between a hard practice where Coach Mays was having you rep out these 300s at your 400 pace, and actually putting it on the damn track.
Right.
And that's what I thought the difference was. And I don't know if other sports get that. I played soccer a little bit, and I didn't feel that level of anxiety. And I was a bit of a head case in high school, a little bit in college, and I figured it out.
A little bit now.
Later on. A little bit now. But I figured it out later on, and it took time, probably just confidence in myself and in growing up and stuff. But so getting in that headspace is a big component. And I was thinking as you were talking, and you mentioned it twice earlier when you talked about yourself, and then when you talked about your athletes, And in PT school, we learn this for treating neurological patients or patients with maybe like a stroke or TBI, and it's
Sure.
actually putting your mind through the activity you're going to do, because that stimulates all sorts of connections and stuff, and maybe helps that neuromuscular connection.
Right.
Pro athletes are going to say that they sit at the start line 5 minutes before and they envision themselves doing X, Y, or Z. You just said that twice, and you coach your athletes like that.
Yeah.
So you think that's so getting in that headspace at the right place at the right time. From a practice that went well.
Yeah, just trying to throw them back to a day that was good.
Yeah.
And even if, and then what happens is, but coach, I can't do it now. My warm-ups before the meet aren't good. It's because you're nervous. Just settle down and race. That's the biggest thing I would always try to say, especially to my senior kids. This isn't your first show. My freshmen, I would expect a little mistake or a mess up. But if you're a senior, and especially if they were a state-level athlete, do what you can do, and I'll be there to congratulate you at the end of the line. Mm-hmm. I would always just try to turn it on them. Like, your confidence should be high, and this is why. Mm-hmm. Boom, 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 boom. You had a great weeks of practice. This is what we should see. These are the times we should hit. Yes, you haven't hit it yet, but it only takes one race. And does it work? I don't know. The kids always tell me that, some kids like that, some kids don't like it. Some kids are like, oh, you think it's that easy because you're confident. I'm like, well, I'm confident because that's what I trained you, and I see the confidence. It kind of just goes away, and that's more in the high school female athlete than it is the male athlete. The male athlete, I'll notice, coach is right. I can do this. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to do it. And then the female, like, oh, but what if this happens? There's always those questions on questions. And I had one athlete, and I won't mention her name, but she was an absolute stud. 2 years in hurdling, and she was like the last out of states, and every meet was like pulling teeth just to get her to race. I can't do it today, coaches, but super fast. Great technique. She just had to put one race together. And she finally did at state quals, but she still finished second instead of first, so she didn't get to go. She had that mentality there. She did for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
She would have had it. Yeah, she would have had it for sure.
So you're going from a career in high school. How long did you coach in college?
So this is the start of my second year.
Start of your second year.
I did a season and a half, then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then this is my first year over here. Yeah. So
how do you like the difference between high school and college? What are the things that you're seeing different? Obviously, facility wise is obviously different, but
huge.
Just the culture of the athlete, I suppose.
Yeah.
What are you seeing different?
A big difference I notice is most of the kids want to be there. In track and field in high school, somewhat it's a how do you say, like a social event? You'll get some kids.
Your friends are doing it.
Which I'm all about getting new people into it.
Right.
I'm all about getting new people into it.
Absolutely.
So we can what I like to see is the college athlete, they'll be ready. Mm-hmm. They want to practice. They're there on time.
Right.
They have the proper gear. There's not many excuses.
Yeah.
And with the high school kids, like you said, they're coming to hang out with their friends. They might miss one practice a week.
Yeah.
They're injured when they have to do a second race. You know what I mean? It's just things of that nature. And yes, the facilities are the biggest
right.
How do you say it? The biggest change. Especially what you see with the dome coming outdoor track, weightlifting facilities. Having those available, you can really train an athlete the way it needs to be trained.
Mm-hmm.
So
the rise of the D3 athlete is something we've talked about here many times.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think we're seeing that as an example with the funding for the sports at that level, in pair with tuition costs and things like that too. Mm-hmm. But you're seeing these facilities put out something like this, and now instead of hurdles in the hallway, it's a dome for a track, and that's a huge change up, but that allows the athlete to take advantage of that, and they should, and it's important to do that, but.
Yeah, especially keeping kids local too. That's the biggest thing, around our area.
Yeah.
A lot of kids were going south to get into tracks or to get into domes to train, and now it's a lot of kids are like, well, I'm going to go here to get away. I'm like, why? If you want to run track, why are you not going to the Hamiltons, to the Uticas, to even Colgate has a facility? It's like, stay local and race, represent the area, Mm-hmm.
Kudos to this place too. Like when I had asked you when you graduated in 2004, I graduated in 2000 from Notre Dame, and Utica College didn't have any of the things that they have now. And that came quick. Like when I came back to grad school here in 2008. And by that point, they had a hockey team. They had the football stadium. They had that, and then now fast forward. Now you got a dome. You've got all sorts of resources.
Yeah,
and it came quickly.
Well, I think 2012 I graduated. We had nothing in terms of track and field facilities.
Right.
And now, so you're talking from 2012 to now. I mean, anything you need to do track wise or field wise is there.
It's there.
It's
there. You have it.
Yeah, and it's not going anywhere. So
have you been to a meet inside the dome?
Oh,
yet?
that's all our high school meets were there.
Yeah, it's so
they're
great.
insane. Yeah,
it's so great.
And last year we went there a lot. And
yeah,
it was just so fun.
I've never been to one before.
Yeah,
and I got to watch Winnie go because he was competing and we knew he was coming here. As a student. And so Mike and I had gone there just to check it out, and I was like, "This is
insane, right?
There's things going on all over the place. It was exciting."
I think that was the same race that Coach Rose was actually there for. It was one. It would have been. I can't remember what the memorial event was. It might have been like we hosted like
the opening meet. Was it?
It wasn't the opening. It wasn't the opening meet because didn't someone like tib fib fracture opening meet?
Yeah,
on the pole vault. So I'm a per diem athletic trainer, and I got the opportunity to do women's hockey in Elmira or somewhere, or the opening meet at the new facility.
Sure, right.
So I sent. I was just like, I'll go on the hockey game because I played hockey. So I was like, I'm gonna go to the hockey game, and I sent my poor cousin to do the opening meet. I'm like, what could go wrong? It's a track meet.
Oh yeah.
She
You don't even want to know.
Tells me a tib fib fracture. It's like the worst thing ever. So I felt so awful for her. Sorry, Dad. My bad.
I'll be back soon.
But yeah. No, that was but
yeah.
How cool.
Having that there is exciting, man. And when Rose comes back, it's always a good time, man.
Yeah.
He stopped by last year randomly because his new job. He's up here. He represents the Syracuse area.
Oh, okay.
And just randomly, I was like, I think I was outside barbecuing. He's like, "Hey, Pruck, I'm in the area. You want to go some dinner?" I'm like, well, Rose, I really can't leave the grills on. Like, you can stop by, cool. And worse, that's another thing too about UC is I'm so close with Parker and with Rose and Lemieux, and I was close with Jake Basher when he was here.
Yeah.
I was at Rose's wedding, Parker's wedding. Like, we've created such a bond. One probably being the older athlete too, but we're just like family now. It's amazing, and seeing what he's doing out in Pennsylvania now, and watching what Parker's doing out in the Albany area.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It's exciting for sure. And it's just wish the whole family was back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wish we were all together still.
Yeah, because this is what you guys had, and now the fruits of your labor are where we are now, and all you can do is kind of watch it happen.
Yeah.
But that's
no, Jim's still here, so that's which is good, because him and I are still good friends, and it's love working with him. So I'm excited to be here for sure.
What are your goals for UC this year?
This year, so with the sprints and hurdles group, man, I would like to see I'd like to see the whole season for outdoor. I would like it to finish. I'd like nationals to be held because they just canceled indoor nationals. Yeah, so that's not going on. Taking one or two kids to the regional level, that'd be awesome. Maybe promoting one to a national level is what always any coach would like to see. But the biggest thing for me is for my underclassmen that I'm working with, I'd like to see improvements. Just consistent improvements. Obviously at the college level, we know it's nothing drastic, 0.01, 0.02 in the hurdles and sprints. Having kids that are competitive in relays, the 4x1, 4x4. If we can keep Utica at that top notch where we've been the past couple of years, just keep us competitive at the regionals. That's what I'm looking for. So that way, 3-4 years from now, we're going to nationals every year in my discipline, sprints and hurdles and relays. And they have another coach, John, up there. Just got to meet him 2 days ago, and wow, what a book of knowledge, too, man. He's the new full-time coach, and he's so smart, and he's teaching me all these new things, the sprint techniques, and I'm like, where'd you get this from? And he worked with some Jamaican sprinters, and
nice.
Learning so much stuff from him. Cool. So bringing my stuff with his stuff, I think it's going to be a great dynamic.
I was talking with him last year before COVID kind of hit, and so we do the strength and conditioning for Utica College.
Yep.
I do distance, cross country, indoor and outdoor, so I'll be seeing you in the next couple of weeks. For
yeah,
the
right,
part.
Absolutely.
But I was talking with him last year quite a bit about sprinting, and I didn't really touch the realm of sprinting. The most sprinting I ever got was like 400. So
right.
But I never until I got into PT school, and then we started here, and I really started to focus on is there a way that we can kind of do this A as a part of SPI, but B, what is my knowledge and my experience in this? But then talking with him. Yeah, what a wealth of knowledge! And it was really cool. I was pleasantly surprised, talking with him. Very smart, very articulate, and he knows his stuff, which is a big thing. And having that intuitive sense we talked about with Coach Mays sometimes is, the real tipping point. You can teach all these athletes, when you're focusing on triple extension and this, I want you to toe off here, and I want this, and I want this, and it's like, okay, but how can you say that to the athlete in a way that is going to
they understand it?
Yeah,
they have to understand it. Yeah. A lot of normal languages, normal language is what I use. There's all these medical scientific terms. And listen, lift your toes up. I'm not going to say dorsiflexion. I'm going to say lift your toes up, okay? Just lift your toes up, so you put it in layman's terms, it's like, all right, and then shin angles, like 90 degrees, man. Make a square. Make half a square out of your knee, on your knee and your shin. And little things like that, it comes a long way, for sure. So, yeah, super excited.
That's great. That's awesome. It's got to be good to be able to come back to UC.
Yeah.
Full circle.
It was. And I've been, I was trying to get back for a while, but they only had GA positions.
Right.
And obviously, I didn't want to go that route. So I just, and like I said, COVID happened. I was like, listen, I'm just going to come over here and help you when I can. And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then obviously, that popped open, and I'm just like, well, great, thank you. Let's see what I can do as a part-time coach here, help you out where I can, how I can, and hopefully I can do a lot with recruiting coming in, knowing a lot
local.
more.
That was my next thing too. Like building up the local thing. What do you have any aspirations of doing anything locally on a private level? Building up local athletes now that you're not.
Right.
Are you still coaching at the high school level at all or no?
No, I think this might be my last year because it's like a 4-week season and they're desperate. So I might go down and help out just because But I'm done with the high school level for sure after this COVID season happens.
And any consulting, anything like private lessons that you're
clinic?
So so I've done that for 4 years. I held it at MVCC. We called it the CNY Striders Track Clinic, and it was like 2 weeks. They came 3 days a week for about 4 hours a day, and we had Rose was one of the coaches who helped me. It was me, Rose, and I forgot the other person. There's a third coach I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank, but I took sprints or hurdles. Rose took distance, and the other gentleman took the mid distance area, and we just focused on basic stuff, basic techniques, and training methods on how they can train themselves with whatever their coach is giving them. Just try to implement new things, and it was great, and I loved it. But then insurance issues, and MV already had a thing with like a different coach, so that I keep stepping on his toes. I had to move it somewhere else, and then it just kind of faded into the background. And I haven't brought it back around since then. Would I love to? Yes.
Okay.
But the time that it takes to set that up and everything, it might be a couple more years before I start bringing in like high school kids in the summertime and things like that.
Well, let me know if you do.
Maybe we can help you with that.
That'd be exciting.
We can help you with that.
Yeah, we can talk offline for sure.
Perfect. Perfect. Nice.
Awesome, man.
Anything else? This was fantastic.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
This is great.
What a good time.
This is good stuff.
You guys do this all the time, huh?
When we get a little time to
about nothing and everything all at once. I am one of those melodramatic fools, neurotic to the bone, no doubt about it. I have finally seen the light. I have finally realized what you mean.